So we get to see Nick Fury in full-fledged action mode in this film.
Somewhat Nick Fury mode, yeah.
How much fun was that?
Kind of great to finally be able to sort of cut loose in that way and to be as heroic as the people that are around me.
I know you're a big comic book fan. Did you find yourself going back to Captain America issues and sort of getting into that political thriller feel?
Not really. I kind of felt it and understood it, and understanding the dynamics between a person who's come from where Cap is in terms of what he thinks freedom is and what the price of freedom is, and to having lived while he was asleep through all of that and evolving to this place where Nick is, where, as Cap says, you know, you don't hold the guns on the people that you want to keep free too. You know, it's kind of like holding them hostage.
Okay, so tell me when did you first learn about the Falcon? Were you a fan before the film?
I first learned about the Falcon when I was a kid. And when I heard they were introducing him to the Captain America franchise, I was elated. I never knew, I never knew that they would tandem two superheroes together so that they can go out and fight together. But when I got the call from Marvel about the opportunity to be in it, I jumped at it 100%.
Tell me a little about trying on this wingsuit for the first time.
It was great. It was, I mean, there's nothing more empowering than putting on a superhero costume and walking around and have people look at you like, wow, that's the guy. There's nothing better for your ego than doing that.
So I imagine even back in the first Captain America, you were checking out the Ed Brubaker Winter Soldier comic books.
Yeah, I had to, for sure.
And how excited were you to? I mean, did you know back then that was the route that?
No, I didn't know back then. I just, you know, I wanted to do as much research as I could on the project, so I was prepared for anything, I guess. But also just in case if there was anything in the first movie that I could lay in as groundwork, you know, so to speak, that this movie were to have happened, then I guess I would have looked out for myself. So I read everything I could before we even shot the first one.
Tell me about this outfit you wear with the metallic arm. What is that like on set?
Well, it was funny because the whole thing is just added such a presence, you know, on set, in front of the camera, and then off set. I mean, for the time that I had the mask on and the goggles and everything, it was, for time purposes, we just wouldn't even take it off, so I would just sit in it. And I always just noticed how uncomfortable people were around me because they couldn't read your expression, they couldn't read your eyes, they didn't know what I was thinking. So I was even thinking then about, oh, okay, well, if it's uncomfortable on set, then it's certainly going to be uncomfortable when it's on camera. So that's actually a good thing.
How much room has there been for you to interject whatever you'd like to see in Nick Fury?
When I'm doing things, I'm allowed to do what I think that particular character would do in terms of how he reacts to people, or in terms of the manipulation factor of what's going on there. So I'm allowed to create him in his world as I see him or as I perceive him to be.
As a comic book fan, are you able to step back and just enjoy the movie as a fan?
Totally. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the whole reason to do it.
Oh.
To, you know, you do it and then you can get out of it. Because I don't watch takes and I don't watch this, that, and the other. I wait until the movie's done and then I'll go see it so I can get the whole effect. So when I saw it, I was definitely pleased with how this turned out.
One of the things I liked about it is Sam Wilson's a guy who has post-traumatic stress from being a veteran, and yet it's not something that's made him dark.
Right.
He's able to crack jokes, but it's still there.
Right.
Seems very realistic to me.
Well, that was something, you know, the thing I love about this movie is, you know, what the Russos were able to do was take things that we're dealing with in our present society and add it to the fold of this story to make it more feasible for people to feel themselves and be relatable to the characters. And with Sam Wilson, what I wanted to do was kind of, you know, give actual soldiers someone to look at and relate to and see that there's someone out there that has the same stress and frustrations and fears that they have, but they also had the wherewithal and ability to overcome it. I think to show that in a movie like this, I feel like is a kind of a helping nudge for all the soldiers that we have coming home, with Cap, who's the ultimate soldier, who's the ultimate American superhero, as well as Sam Wilson.
There's obviously been a lot of history that we don't entirely know what happened to him. Do you, as an actor, know? Do you work out exactly what went into him becoming the Winter Soldier?
Well, a lot of that is in the comic books. I mean, we don't see it necessarily in between these two, what really happened between these two movies. But a lot of that was in the comic books. So, yeah, I mean, I do know, and I did know what sort of happened to him. I didn't know at first how much of that they were going to use, but I think it was pretty easy actually to have the comic books, because I just sort of followed this map that was already written out for me.
Obviously, in the first one, you and Chris Evans, Steve Rogers were best friends.
Right.
What is the first time you're wearing the Winter Soldier costume like, sitting down with Chris Evans or standing up with Chris Evans and interacting with him? Do you try to be intimidating?
No, I mean, the atmosphere on set was very. There was a lot of sense of humor. You know, everybody was pretty casual with each other. We all kind of knew one another pretty well, and it was nice because a lot of the time also the atmosphere was very serious. So I guess looking back, there might have been a moment or so on where he and I might have been talking about something completely off the subject, and then I'd look at him and look at me and be like, wow, you're wearing that and I'm wearing this.
Tell me a little about working with Anthony and Joe Russo. They're names that may not be familiar to everyone, but they knock it out of the park.
Interesting, that dynamic. I've only done it once before when I worked with the Hughes brothers years ago. You have a two-headed director monster. It's kind of like, well, which one of you do I listen to? And we finally reached the sort of compromise where, okay, let me show you what I think Nick Fury is going to do, and if you don't like it, then I'll show you something else that I think Nick Fury is going to do, and you'll probably like that. But I've been at this Nick Fury game, through 5 or so movies. So I kind of know what I want him to do, and I kind of know what they want me to do or what the expectation is. And their interpretation of the story was more important to me than my characterization of Nick. So us realizing, that we could mutually benefit each other was really great, but they're smart enough to see that.